Thank you for turning to page 121.
Welcome back to page 121. Well, it's that time of year, Halloween, and I just ran my annual Walpurgis game, Walpurgis 2021. A little bit about the game. I have some video of the layout I did, as well as how I keep the layout from being seen when my players initially walk in. But first, I want to do a little bit of background on what the game was and what Walpurgis is. So quickly, Walpurgis is a game where you bring your player character in, and I kill it. The idea is that uh, you're coming into this evil place. Oh my gosh, it's Walpurgis Nacht, and your character is going to be killed. The original idea behind Walpurgis was we had some characters in an old club I belonged to who began to believe they were unkillable. I decided that I would go ahead and prove that wrong and kill them. It doesn't count in my campaign. It doesn't count in real life. If you use charges, if you lose a dagger throwing, whatever, it doesn't count. It never has repercussions in my actual campaign. It's just for fun. I've been doing these now since 1982. This is about my 30th actual Killfest dungeon, and I got a lot of good response from them. My players really seem to enjoy it. We have a lot of fun. So I'm gonna a little bit about the theme of this year's dungeon. I usually don't do movie parodies, but this year I did. I did Final Destination 6, Death Takes a Mulligan. That's what I called the adventure. And the idea was that in one of the earliest rooms the group would go into, they go into the room and the door slams behind them, and suddenly the sword specialist of the group is assailed by 4 floating swords that attack him and do damage, and they kill him. And the hammer specialist, a dwarf I had in the group, played by my son Patrick, a bunch of hammers, 4 hammers fly out and start bashing into him and do enough damage and kill him. My wife was playing a thief, so 4 floating daggers backstab her repeatedly. Down she goes. We had a bow specialist, halfling in the group, played by Craig. He got shot by a bunch of different arrows, and down he goes. And then we had a cleric of Bahamut in the group, and he was turned by a bunch of vampires acting in a crowd. They turn him into a corner, and then basically he just succumbs to the pressure of being turned. I know it doesn't work that way, but it does in Walpurgis. So that's the silliness. Then all the characters are dead in the first 15 minutes of the game. They all kind of gave me a puzzled look, and then I said, you reappear outside the door having never gone through. And they all went, oh my gosh, you're doing Final Destination. I got a big laugh, a couple of high fives. They really seemed to enjoy the idea. So in the Final Destination films, the characters get a premonition of their own deaths, and then they avoid that because they have the premonition, so if it's a plane crash, well, they don't get on that plane. But they find out later that death wants them no matter what. They were supposed to die in the plane, so death will now go through these ridiculous Rube Goldberg-esque machinations to get them, to have them die. So the rest of the film is the characters being killed. And I thought, how appropriate for Walpurgis. My wife gets a partial credit for this. I had thought of doing Final Destination as a D&D game. My wife said, why don't you do it for this year's Walpurgis? So there you go, hon. Part credit. So the dungeon itself was set in northeastern Furiandi, right around Bradford, right around there, just on the western bank of the Vang River. It was a dungeon crawl. I'll show the layout in a little bit, and you'll see some of what I had the players encounter. And again, it's just fun. None of this counts in the campaign. My players get a kick out of it. I get a kick out of it. I love doing these. In the almost 40 years I've done these, this would be the 40th one I've done, actually. I've done about 30 that were Killfests. I've done a few others that were just Halloween-themed games that did count in campaign. I did one where the bulk of a town was, small town, was werewolves. I guess I kind of adapted that from The Howling. So I guess I do adapt movies. So that counted in campaign, but was still a Halloween game. And I've done a couple of Walpurgises in the same year, where I did one for an event and then one for my group. So I've done 30, 32 of the Killfests. My players have been through it many, many times. They're all experienced with it. They all enjoy it. So I'm going to go through the layout in just a moment, and then I'm going to go through the details on how the game progressed and how the kills happened. So that's it. Walpurgis 2021. Final Destination 6. Death Takes a Mulligan. I'm going to try to give a dungeon eye view. See if that works. Yeah, that looks better. Okay, so they're going to come up some trees down the path to there. You're going to have to deal with a frog hemoth. There he is. Coming up to the main door. Beautifully painted by one of the players in our group, Mike. Through the door. The way scary mummy guy. And a couple of animated tables. Some of the stuff is not actually going to be monsters in the game. Some are going to be illusionary. Some are just here to kind of fill out the scene for this filming. So, nice to be here. And then these are all the Den of Evil tiles from Dwarven Forge. This is a set my lovely wife gave me years ago. A couple of sets, actually. Lots of Christmases on my gaming table, that's for sure. Some birthdays, too. There's the Grateful Undead lead minis from the 80s pack. My buddy Mike painted those as well. Coming up to the big glowing. That's going to be a prismatic sphere with a hag. Going to the next room. This is kind of an undead ogre. Some kind of sacrificial altar. Coming out here. Coming out this door. This big old nasty giant. Summoning circles with death, because why not? Down the corridor to another room I haven't populated yet, or they can go out this doorway. Down another corridor to a Bar Lagura waiting for them. This group is ranging between 8th and 12th level. They are of decent strength, but they are killable. And as I've said before, Walpurgis, the point is I have to kill them. I have 6 hours and a lot of dungeon to drag them through, all the while I'm trying to kill them. So I don't kill them just through attrition, just through hit points. I try to kill through innovation. So you see the gelatinous cube here. It's Walpurgis, the gelatinous cube. Maybe he shoots lightning bolts because, you know, it's Walpurgis. And then the prismatic sphere. I'm toying with having that roll around. Then they would suffer the effects of having passed through the sphere as it rolls over them. So different ideas. It's Walpurgis. I get weird with stuff. It's fun. This big old giant with death and the summoning circle. So that's just a quick look at the table setup. I'm going to go ahead and cover it up. And then we're going to, we'll be playing in just a few hours. So I'll let you know how it goes. And this is what my players will see as they come onto the, as they look on the table. Everything is covered up. I'll keep it all covered up and reveal a little bit as I go. So they won't have any idea what's in rooms that are coming. So I did a video on this not too long ago. You can find it. Go ahead and look it up. It's called Dungeon Reveal. Just go ahead and find it, or maybe I'll hook a link to this. But there you have it. So they won't see a thing until it's too late. Okay. Okay, so that was the layout I had. It was a dungeon. I had written a total of 16 encounters. That dungeon layout that you saw had 12 rooms. Generally do encounters in the rooms, although there were a few in the hallways. Some of the things that I hit them with early outside the dungeon, I hit them with a frog hemoth coming up out of the pond that was to the right of the door as they approached. Frog hemoths are just an old favorite of ours. So I went ahead and hit them with a frog hemoth. They dealt with it pretty handily. I did get one player in the water, almost swallowed, but ultimately not swallowed. So once they dealt with the frog hemoth, they went through the doorway. First thing I encountered in the first room were 3 mummies. The cleric tried to turn them, but it was ineffective, and he thought, oh, because it's a Walpurgis game. No, they were adherers. I haven't used adherers in a long, long time. That ended up being kind of fun. They ended up evacuating from the room and leaving a 2-handed sword, belonged to my youngest son, stuck to one of the adherers. They pulled out of the room, hit the room with a fireball, destroying the adherers. The 2-handed sword that was inside did make its saving throw versus fireball. As I say, I play hardball in it. So, a little bit of background. The dungeon itself was in northeastern Furiandi, right up here by Grabford, which is just on the western side of the Vang River. So I like to place it wherever the game is going to be. So I went ahead and I placed it there, just to keep it within the campaign. I will, as I've told my players, I will never explain the mysterious powers that are the powers behind Walpurgis. It's just something I do as a DM, and it's fun and it's silly. Lots of things pertain in Walpurgis. Once they're in the dungeon and the dungeon is sealed, or if it's an outdoor game, once the area is closed off, uh, teleport doesn't work, plane travel doesn't work. You can't get out. You can only move around naturally. You can fly. You can use limited teleports like Dimension Door is allowable because that's line of sight only. You cannot exit the area via that. So once they're in the dungeon, they know they're trapped in the dungeon, and then I go ahead and I hit them with different encounters. I had 6 hours for this game, which is unusually long for our game. We usually play 3. So I set up the bulk of the game to be just a dungeon encounter. And some of the monsters they encountered was a Behir, one of my personal favorites. Some ogres with an ogre mage. The ogre mage had a couple of mirrors set up, and I let him cast a lightning bolt that reflected off both mirrors and straight down the corridor. The players were coming up. Silly little things like that that I pop out in Walpurgis now and again. I did put a Garistro in the game. I put it in an extra planar area that was actually outdoors. The players did not bite. They didn't go after the Garistro to the mysterious whatever it was guarding because they know me too well. So the Garistro did not get any kills. So I was a little disappointed in that. I thought the Garistro would get at least one player character. Now the Garistro, unless you think I was being completely ridiculous, the Garistro was not as tough as an ordinary Garistro. It did have 20 hit dice. It hit like a dump truck, but I didn't give it any real powers or anything like that. It was just there as a bag of hit points. So having whiffed on my encounter there, one of the next rooms they went into, they encountered what turned out to be a banshee. Banshees, of course, when they wail, you have to make a saving throw or die. Every one of them buried their saving throws. I think the lowest saving throw I had in that encounter was 14. Because the fighter thief halfling, played by Craig, was also a bow specialist, they were able to deal with her pretty quickly. He deals out a lot of damage with the bow specialization. In our campaign, we allow halflings instead of the +2/+2. We actually bump them to +3/+3. Because let's face it, halflings don't have a ton going for them. So after that encounter, I was a little disheartened. I thought that, by that point, I'd have at least 1 or 2 player characters gone, with the other 3 checking out soon. It was after 7:30. We were only playing until 8 o'clock. I had decided this year, rather than kill players as I went along the game, I would keep everybody with the group until 7, with trying to get some kills between 7 and 7:30. I whiffed on those. And then from 7:30 to 8 would be the wrap-up where I kill everybody else. Unfortunately, the only thing I had left was Polymorph Other spell cast by a Spirit Naga. Again, it's Walpurgis, so I allow levels to be a little different, and I allow powers that wouldn't ordinarily be allowed. The Polymorph Other was cast on my youngest son Adam and his fighter, and the power that it cast was to turn him into a merman, a merfolk. Uh-oh, he needs water to breathe now. There was no water to be had. So he actually air suffocated because of that, because while that was going on, the Spirit Naga also threw a death spell, single target, kind of like a Finger of Death, but I did give a saving throw, which my player failed miserably. That, I believe, was... that was Craig. He failed the death. He was out. Now, guys, I apologize if I remember some of the particular deaths wrong. No, that was Roy, who died by the Finger of Death. I then had in the next encounter, the battered group went in against, was an evil cleric. The evil cleric had a necklace of prayer beads. I had him toss one down. It was a cleric of Tiamat, other way. The cleric of Tiamat actually called down Tiamat, 90% chance I threw it. Tiamat appeared, briefly took the one character that was being chosen by the cleric. In this case, it was the halfling with the bow specialization, Craig. So he was gone. The last 2 players I had left, the final encounter was my wife and my oldest son. They were the last 2 left. They encountered a room with a man in a dinner jacket and a fine cloak who talked like this. Kind of why I wore this shirt. It was a vampire. And this particular vampire had in his hand a pouch of dust of choking and sneezing. Since he's a vampire, he's immune to it. Can't choke, can't sneeze if you don't breathe. But each of my wife and my son, the two remaining characters, did make their saving throws, but were held helpless for 7 rounds while the choking and sneezing affected them. Because even if you save versus the choking effect and don't die, you still sneeze uncontrollably and are effectively helpless. At that point, the vampire was able to do enough damage / drain them that he was able to kill both. So that was actually the end of Walpurgis. Not quite what I went for. I was going for a little different flavor. I wanted just with the Final Destination theme going on, I thought it would be better if I had a little bit more Rube Goldberg type kills, but I wasn't really able to figure out a good way to do that in D&D. That's harder to do than it seems. So that was Walpurgis 2021. My players did have a lot of fun. Plenty of pizza to be had by all. It was a very good time, and I look forward to Walpurgis next year. And we are not playing this coming week. We're playing the week after. We have to skip this week for reasons. I might start doing a little preview now and again of what game we're going to be playing. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to do that or not. So anyway, that's it for this year from Walpurgis 2021. I hope you enjoyed hearing about them. If you did, please comment below. And if you like the page, please like and subscribe. And I'll see you next time on page 121.
Well, that closes the book on another episode of page 121. Please leave your comments below, and if you enjoyed what you saw, go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe to the channel.